this is well. What do the Raptors have in terms of the draft? Do they have a first rounder this year?
No, 33. So
33.
Third pick in the second round.
Let me start with that because we rarely talk about this, if ever. Is 2 rounds the right number? Because there will be those who are invariably, I know it's been this way for a long time, but invariably surprised that the NBA only goes 2 rounds. And then everybody after that becomes a free agent. And we understand the motive of that, both financially and opportunity-wise. But is that the right answer, Smitty?
I think in a perfect world, it'll be a 1-round draft. And the 1-round guys get guaranteed contracts. And everybody else gets to find a job.
Really?
And then it's on the teams to go and find guys outside of the 30 guys that get picked. For players, you want that. Some want that second round because they want to get into a system. They don't want to go investigate. They want to be taken and, okay, I'm with that team. I'm going to learn that team. But I think in a perfect world, it's a 1-round draft and everybody else becomes out there. And then it's on teams that go fill your roster out by scouting, which teams don't want to do because it costs a lot of money and there's a lot of room for mistakes. But in my perfect world, it's a 1-round draft.
And that's kind of basically what it is now, because none of the stuff in the second round is guaranteed. And look, back in the day, we all know it became crazy. We get to all of you can remember when the draft was 10 rounds and you get to the 9th round and a GM's picking his buddy who's like, who hangs out with him in a bar on a Thursday night to say he got drafted kind of thing. And I like Doug's idea. And if you think about it, teams look now to sometimes move down or move first-round picks because you've got a bunch of young guys. Why do you want more? And then why do you want to guarantee them that money? Because you're drafting guys that are so young right now. I mean, they're 1 year removed from their high school prom, for crying out loud, and you're giving them millions of dollars, and you don't know the character and how if it's fully developed and what kind of a guy you have. So that's why in the scouting and the drafting, when you have them, the workouts, the dinners, the human interaction is so different. It's so important because you want to know what kind of person you're getting. They pay attention to how does he treat the kid that brings the towels? How does he interact with the person that picks him up at the airport? You're looking for a character person who can play basketball, because sometimes you get a basketball player who, well, we just talked about Kyrie Irving, who goes sideways from a character standpoint, and you guaranteed them all this money. So I'm okay with the draft being basically 2 rounds because the second round is nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah, I think the Raptors were quite happy to get out of the first round this year because I guess the difference was 23 to 33. The 23rd pick, if they would have not made the Thad Young trade and kept it, would have been a 3-year guaranteed contract at something around $6 million total. So the guys on your roster, you can't cut them, or you can cut them, but it costs you some money. And you're going to get the same player at 33. That's the thing. To me, that's the problem with the draft, is that the difference between 21 and 51 isn't that big. And I think because the caliber of the game globally is so high that you're absolutely, you can hit a home run with a guy who's undrafted like Fred VanVleet, or you can absolutely miss on a guy like who's the 3rd overall pick, like the guy in Sacramento who took. And I know, Jones, that you talked about this. That's the worst draft team in the history of drafts. All sports, all time. Look at the Sacramento list of draft picks blown. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Look, when you get to a point in the draft, the Spurs, the Raptors recently, you're going to be picking at the bottom, and you do your homework and you bring a guy into the right system that people say, well, who's he? Who's this guy? And then a couple of years later, they're saying, well, where did they get this guy? And look, Norman Powell, look at some of the Raptor picks, again, that have turned into other people. DeLon Wright at 20, Pascal Siakam at 27, Fred VanVleet undrafted. Norman Powell was a trade in the 2nd round. Like, yeah, anybody can pick Valanciunas at top 5 or something like that. But you make your money when you find those guys, the hidden gems. And Dan Tolzman talked about this. You go digging and you find guys that nobody else can, and you get them at a bargain. And yeah, eventually you pay them, but it's not like you're paying them and hoping that they're going to turn into something because you had the 4th or 5th pick. And Doug, Sacramento, look, I'll throw some other teams out there. Minnesota for the longest time was a consistent lottery team and couldn't make the right. I mean, they had a guy that picked 2 guards before and left Steph Curry on the board. He picked 2 guys before Steph Curry in the top 10 and left Steph on the board.
I had lost faith in the draft completely until last year, and then Cleveland and Toronto go and get 2 guys that are game changers, true game changers. And so now you're saying, okay, what does a Jabari Smith do for you? The big guy out of Gonzaga, Chet Holmgren, what does he do for you? And there's a 7-footer for you, Bob. So you might, the return of the 7-footer at the top of the draft.
Well, the only thing that occurs to me is you now have a draft. Everybody is 19 years old, or 1 year, and you are now drafting somebody that your coaching staff, an NBA coaching staff, is going to have to develop, rather than have the college coaching staff develop them. And that's really the fundamental difference today in the draft from now. And it's been a few years, more than a few years. But
I think one of the issues.
That's your point. That's your point, Bobcat. Back in the day, even when a guy came out early, he had 3 years of college.
That's right.
And he developed. And he not only did he develop as a basketball player, he developed as a person. Because right now, when they come out this young, you're teaching life, and you're teaching not just the NBA game, you're teaching the game of basketball. A college kid after 4 years at least understood basketball a little. Now you teach them the NBA game. Right now, the developmental curve is huge for these kids coming out.